White men in America are 45 more times likely to commit a fucking violent crime than an immigrant. And the media says, well...
You're going to be seeing a lot about this story over the course of the next several days, I believe. Hunter Biden sat down with a young man named Andrew Callahan, who has a remarkable online presence. Used to have a show on YouTube called All Gas, No Brakes. Now he has a channel called, I believe he owns that now too, but Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. A pretty prolific interviewer, talented kid. He sat down for almost 3 hours or just over 3 hours with Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and made a lot of headlines that you're going to be reading. You're going to be hearing all kinds of stuff about how he told George Clooney to go f*** himself and David Axelrod and the Pod Save America guys and James Carville and a host of other people. Some of it I agree with. I think some people who are strategists in the Democratic Party need to go the f*** away. Others, I don't know that I agree with his takes, but he is absolutely a son defending his father, and nobody can blame him for that, right? I've had criticism for Hunter Biden, and I've had praise for Hunter Biden. And on the total, on the whole, I walked away pretty impressed. I walked away liking Hunter Biden certainly more than I did going into the interview. And I'm going to play one of those elements, and it has nothing to do with the George Clooney aspect of it all, because I don't think that's what's important. One, I don't think it's important what Hunter Biden thinks really about anything relative to politics, because he's not running for office. He's not going to be in a position to make things worse or better relative to our situation in this country. I think on the whole, this appearance might be more of a net negative because of the fact of the controversy it brings. But he did say one thing that I was wholly impressed by, and it's relative mainly to, it's adjacent to how Joe Biden governed and what kind of a good and decent man he was, what kind of a presidency he has, what kind of legacy he will end up with. These are not directly addressed, but you can extrapolate these from that. And it's about mass deportation and where we are. And then later, I'm going to play a clip because Stephen Miller, the ghoulish Stephen Miller, was asked about this particular interview, and he had some shit to say that absolutely needs to be addressed. But first, let's start with Hunter Biden talking to Andrew Callahan.
What about all those other people? Am I not supposed to feel for someone? Am I going to be like all these Democrats say, you have to talk about and realize that people are really upset about illegal immigration? Fuck you. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you got food on your fucking table? Who do you think washes your dishes? Who do you think does your fucking garden? Who do you think is here by the fucking sheer fucking just grit and will that they figured out a way to get here because they thought that they could give themselves and their family a better chance? And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the fucking criminals? White men in America are 45 more times likely to commit a fucking violent crime than an immigrant. And the media says, well, you got David Axelrod and, Rahm fucking Emanuel. So fucking smart, Rahm Emanuel. And so we got to understand that these people are really mad. And we got to appeal to these white voters. Rahm, the only people that fucking appealed to those fucking white voters was Joe Biden, 81 years old. And he got 81 million votes, and he did not because he appeased their fucking Trumpian sense, but because he challenged it. And he said, you can be an 81-year-old Catholic from fucking Scranton that doesn't understand it, but still has empathy for transgender people and immigrants. Then nobody said, oh, Joe Biden's going to turn us into a socialist state, no matter how much they said it. But these guys think that we need to run away from all values in order for us to lead. I say, fuck you. How are we getting those people back from fucking El Salvador? Because I'll tell you what, if I became president in 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, or 3 years from now, I would pick up the phone and call the fucking president of El Salvador and say, you either fucking send them back or I'm going to fucking invade. It's a fucking crime what they're doing. He's a fucking dictator thug.
Bukele or Trump?
Both.
Show me where he's wrong. Look, there's a lot of hand-wringing and harumphing from Republicans over the language here when Donald Trump is their golden god. Shut up. If you're offended by the language and not onboarding the message, you got a problem. And I agree fully. This is where he brought me around to be a little bit more soft about who he is, about liking him and his positions, because he is a humanist. He's not wanting the Democratic Party, much like me, to move to the right, to appeal to Republicans. That is largely why we lost this last election, giving multiple primetime speaking slots to Republicans, conservative Republicans, who just happen to be against Trump. But politically, positionally, they're still who they are. And we gave them those speaking times at the convention. We're sharing a stage with Liz Cheney. What are we doing? We're strategizing by Alyssa Slotkin and so many others to turn our backs on transgender kids, immigrants, who make this country better, stronger, more resilient. And I love hearing that from Hunter Biden. I'm here for it. I want your opinion on it. I'll throw up the number at the end, and you can absolutely comment below. Stephen Miller, and also on the dictator thing, yeah, they are both fucking dictators. Bukele from El Salvador and Donald Trump. Ignoring the Supreme Court, ignoring the rule of law. Kidnapping people with the masked secret police force. Come on. Stephen Miller, the tip of the spear for the mass deportation effort, was asked about this on Laura Ingram's show last night. And he had some choice misinformation and disinformation and Nazi propaganda to spew. Watch this and we'll address his bullshit on the other side.
Your reaction to Hunter Biden's F-off comment?
Well, Hunter Biden's father, his administration, presided over the greatest invasion on American soil in American history. The mass theft and pillaging of American jobs, wealth, and security. And you're seeing the results of that with that video footage that we've all watched now of two illegal aliens with serial criminal records that Joe Biden, that the Democrats, the Democrat Party, purposefully let into the country, set free, had custody of, and released. And then they ambushed this brave CBP officer who, despite the injuries he sustained, fought off his attackers. And of course, one of those attackers, you can now see the footage, was dumped by his accomplice in an emergency room after sustaining 3 gunshot wounds. But this is happening all over this country. Joe Biden and the Democrat Party allowed millions of military-age men with criminal records and criminal intentions and criminal ambitions into the country to prey on us, to prey on our cities, to prey on our communities.
To prey on our communities. Oh, twitchy Stephen Miller. A lot of invasion talk. There's no invasion. Invasion is what happens during a war. Stephen Miller wouldn't know that because he never served in the United States military. Too much of a soft-skinned little coward. A lot of crime talk. A lot of gang talk. And maybe he's right. Yeah, look at this headline from the New York Post just from yesterday. Husband allegedly admits to killing wife, hiding body for a month in first ever crime. And then the alleged perpetrator is quoted as saying, "Go big or go home." I wonder, you get the bit, you know what I'm doing here. I wonder if this gentleman, what country he immigrated from. I wonder what his legal status was relative to immigration. Dun, dun, dun! He's a white guy. He's an American. Man whose wife was found decomposing in home, worked for local school district. Floresville Independent School District confirmed Charles Bird, 49, worked as a master plumber. This is what they always want to do, is they want to demonize brown people and black. They're eating the pets. They're eating the cats and the fucking dogs. They want to demonize and vilify and otherize immigrants in this country, migrants in this country, of any status. They're kidnapping and disappearing people who are here legally with green cards. They're not in it for some noble cause to address violent crime. They don't care about that. But low information or already motivated people who don't want to, who are racists, who are xenophobes, they will run away with every incident of crime, violent or otherwise, that's committed by a migrant and ignore all the native-born stuff, because all of the statistics bear out that first generation people here, whether they be illegal or legal, whether they go through the right way to do it or not, they commit crimes at far lower rates than native-born Americans. It takes until like the third generation until crime starts being committed at the same rates as native-born. Good for Hunter Biden. You know, and I can overlook all of the bad words that he says because I'm an adult. It's the points. It's what he's saying. And I'm more of a fan now than I was yesterday, I'll tell you that. I don't believe, I don't recall, I can't, it's real hard for me to know the answer. Maybe you should talk to the FBI. Right now, the Republican Party is bending itself into a pretzel to try to cover for Donald Trump and with this Epstein association thing. It's remarkable. They are shutting down the Rules Committee. I'm going to get to that a little later. They are not going to vote on any Epstein amendments relative to releasing documents. For as many years as we heard Republicans bang on and cry and whine and scream and yell their conspiracy theories into the ether about we need the Epstein files, we need them files, we got to get them files. Where are they now? Where are Republican leaders now to acquiesce and say, oh yeah, we need this. After all the years, we know it's important. We're going to do it. Now that Donald Trump sent his little pubic hair signature note, and it's been reported by the Wall Street Journal, all of a sudden, oh no, we cannot do that. Here's Casey Hunt from CNN, kind of laying the groundwork for where we are with the House of Representatives and what their schedule is looking like, because typically there's an August break, and there's going to be one this year too. The House of Representatives is the least hardworking body, government employees in the history. They don't work on Monday, they don't work on Friday, and they take massive swaths of the year off. And this is just one more of those elements, except now they can't wait to get out of town so they can cover for Donald Trump.
There are new signs for the president that the backlash over the Jeffrey Epstein saga is very real and not going away. Right now, there are two major developments on Capitol Hill. A vote on a measure to force the White House to release all federal records related to Epstein now has enough Republican support in the House. At least 10 GOP lawmakers have now signed on, meaning that leadership has to hold a vote. And just as that news was breaking, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, is telling CNN that he's not going to hold any vote on anything related to Epstein this week. Why does that matter? Well, this week is the last week that Congress is scheduled to be working until September.
We need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing.
So no vote on this resolution before August 1st.
Now, in that clip, she cut to a shorter version of what I'm getting ready to play you of Manu Raju asking Speaker of the House, controller of the agenda in the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, what's going on? Are we going to get some Epstein votes? Are you going to release these files? And he slips. He says something he should not have said relative to giving Donald Trump cover, giving Donald Trump the space to do what it's doing. We got to give the White House the space that they need. The space that they need. Watch Mike Johnson.
For the August recess.
So here's what I would say about the Epstein files. There is no daylight between the House Republicans, the House, and the president on maximum transparency. He has said that he wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now. My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing. And if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the president.
So no vote on this resolution before August recess.
We had this.
No vote on this before the August recess. And the space that they need. He wants to give the White House, Donald Trump, the space that he needs. Space to do what? Space to do what, Mike Johnson? What space to, if he did nothing wrong, if he is guilt-free, why would he need space to operate and do things, to make moves? And why do you want to get the hell out of town as quickly as you can for the entire month of August, leaving Donald Trump all of this space and time to do what he wants? I'll tell you why. And this is why it's a slip up on the part of Mike Johnson. Karoline Leavitt was asked a question about this very thing, adjacent to it at least, out on the driveway of the White House, where sometimes reporters ask them questions. And the reporter is asking specifically on whether or not Donald Trump, there's an accusation out there, there's reporting that Donald Trump has instructed like 1,000 FBI agents to go through and mark or annotate or remove, certainly alert when his name is mentioned in the thousands and thousands of pages of Epstein documents. This was her answer.
There are reports that President Trump or the FBI agents going through the Epstein files were told to flag President Trump's name if it came up. Is that something the president was aware of or something that he directed those agents or the Department of Justice to do?
I don't believe that's something the White House was aware of. You'd have to ask the FBI.
Caroline.
Very convincing. I don't believe, I don't recall, I can't, it's real hard for me to know the answer. Maybe you should talk to the FBI. Maybe you should talk to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Two accurate arbiters of truth, right? This is what's going on. And now we're learning that they're shutting down the Rules Committee. Here's from Jake Sherman. News, Ralph Norman, hardline conservative on the House Rules Committee, says that the panel will not report a rule this week for bills, effectively shutting down the House floor. Why? He doesn't want to vote on Democrats' Epstein amendments. He says it's grandstanding. If that's not enough reporting, here's another one from Meredith Lee Hill. News, House Rules Committee isn't returning at all tonight and likely not at all this week amid Epstein plus other issues per sources. Steve Scalise, the man who's from Louisiana, the majority leader of the House of Representatives, the man who said, I'm just like David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, except I don't have all that baggage. That's who Steve Scalise is. He said this, Steve Scalise confirms to me it's not likely rules return, meaning House would leave without advancing immigration and several other bills. They are so worried about Donald Trump's guilt and the American people realizing just how guilty he is that they're willing to shut down votes on the immigration agenda. That's how scared they are of this. And that's why any media outlet, any independent creator, anybody out there who talks about politics for a living, if they don't talk about all of the distractions and highlight them as distractions from this, they're not doing you well. They're not serving you well. They're not doing their jobs, because that's what all of this has been. All of the stories that I'm going to cover after this video about the Obama crime of the century, all of this nonsense that's out there, all of this serves one singular purpose, and that is to try to extricate Donald Trump from guilt, from culpability, from the American people's knowledge of what he did. That's it. And they're willing to burn their agenda to the ground to cover for him. Not all of MAGA. There's still a percentage of people out there who are Trump supporters who want answers, who actually are true believers in trying to deal with sex trafficking and crimes against children. I think a lot of what they believe is wacky and not rooted in reality. But if Donald Trump, if they can learn what he did, it might be over for him. And if MAGA starts letting up their support for Donald Trump, the Republican Party itself and leadership could finally cut bait from him. I mean, it would be not much better. We'd end up with the J.D. Vance president, but we're getting close. Irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, says Donald Trump's now Secretary of State. It's the crime of the century. If what I'm getting ready to read you is true from Donald Trump, if Obama and Hillary and Biden and James Comey and James Clapper and John Brennan, if they committed the crime of the century, then why will there be no convictions? Why will there be no criminal complaints forwarded to the Department of Justice? All of this is a distraction because Donald Trump got caught with his pants down, maybe literally, relative to abuse of children and his decades-long friendship with a notorious abuser of children. That is why. This is a distraction. I called it yesterday the Distractapalooza. And that's what this is. Donald Trump on True Social last night, 8:11 p.m. Eastern Time, he wrote this: Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this, the crime of the century. Irrefutable evidence. A major threat to our country. Riddled. In exclamation points. And I'm a fan of the exclamation point. I get mocked for using it too often, and that's okay. Notice he used the word evidence. Irrefutable evidence, except for the fact that they provided none. There is no evidence. They've given us no evidence whatsoever. It's conjecture, it's stipulation, it's speculation, it's accusation. There's no evidence. There's no documents. There's no unredacted top secret files. None of that. They're just saying it. They're just saying it. There's not even a canceled check like there was during the Biden crime family investigation. None of that. There will be no prosecutions. This will end up just like James Comer and Jim Jordan's investigations. Nothing. There will be nothing. It'll be crickets. Even if we get crickets, actually, I will be shocked. There won't even be that. All this serves is to give Donald Trump just a little bit of time. Crime of the century. And speaking of the crime of the century, relative to the hoax that was Russia interference in the 2016 election, and also this other accusation that the FBI spied on the Donald Trump campaign. All of it's untrue. And I'm not just saying that from my own perspective. I'm going directly to someone who is very close to Donald Trump, who holds multiple jobs within this particular administration, 4 up to this point, maybe 5 jobs at this point. He's wearing a lot of hats. Marco Rubio. Here's a headline from 2018 from ABC. No evidence FBI spied on Trump campaign. Republican says contrary to president's claims. Senator Marco Rubio said he's seen no evidence to support the president's claims. And if you think maybe ABC is just being the liberal media, they're just the fake news, they're just making up stuff. Here's Martha Raddatz talking to Marco Rubio in May of 2018 about this very matter.
And Senator Rubio, just quickly here in the end, on the so-called FBI informant, President Trump says that the FBI had a spy in his campaign. I know you were not in those classified meetings this week, but based on what you have seen, is the president telling the truth?
So I think the president is facing these, and his lawyers are reacting. They're responding to what that what they're facing and the things that are happening to them. I can tell you what I know. Number one, if there is an FBI informant or any sort of inappropriate action that's been taken targeting a political campaign, the president's or any, we want to know about it and it should be punished. As far as what I have seen to date, it appears that there was an investigation not of the campaign, but of certain individuals who have a history that we should be suspicious of that predate the presidential campaign of 2015, 2016. And when individuals like that are in the orbit of a major political campaign in America, the FBI, who is in charge of counterintelligence investigations, should look at people like that. But they're not investigating the campaign, they're investigating those people. In fact,
so you're saying President Trump was wrong?
I have seen no evidence that those people were part of an investigation on the campaign. If that exists, I would want to know about it. We should all know about it. And if that would be wrong, and we should do something about it. But up to now, what I have seen is evidence that they were investigating individuals with a history of links to Russia that were concerning. And that was appropriate if that's all that happened.
Yeah. Secretary of State now, head of USAID, all of the other things that he does close to Donald Trump. Bootlicks Donald Trump. Loves the grundle butter of Donald Trump. Cannot get enough slathered around his mouth and lips. He loves it. He was a bigwig on the Senate Intelligence Committee that investigated the Russia collusion, the Russia interference in our 2016 election. And they found overwhelming evidence that, yes, indeed, Russia interfered. This is not a hoax. This is not the crime of the century. Russia interfered. This is from the Senate Intel Committee, Marco Rubio's statement. Over the past 3 years, the Senate Intelligence Committee conducted a bipartisan and thorough investigation into Russian efforts to influence the 2016 election and undermine our democracy. We interviewed over 200 witnesses and reviewed over 1 million pages of documents. No probe into this matter has been more exhaustive. What the committee did find is very troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. Irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, says Donald Trump's now Secretary of State. It's the crime of the century. And listen, maybe Marco Rubio just had a bad week. Tulsi Gabbard also back in 2018, I think this was in August of 2018, maybe it was September of 2018, Tulsi Gabbard, the now Director of National Intelligence for Donald Trump, the hand-picked soldier of the MAGA movement. She was on Joe Rogan's podcast and indicated absolutely Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
When you're talking about like these Russian troll farms that you mentioned, what is missing from all of the news coverage around this and all of the outrage about how this foreign country is trying to influence our elections, which is wrong and which the American people need to be aware of where this information is coming from, is the fact that and you're saying, why does somebody do that? Well, because this country does want to influence who we're electing, right?
Yes.
Like, we'd rather work with this person. We know that person is not going to be nice to us. The United States has been doing this for a very long time.
Sure.
In countries around the world, both overtly and covertly, through these kinds of disinformation campaigns, not even counting like the outright regime change wars, we're going to physically take you out. And I think it is very hypocritical for us to be discussing this issue as a country without actually being honest about how this goes both ways. So yes, we need to stop these other foreign countries, and Russia's not the only one, there are others, from trying to influence the American people in our elections. We also need to stop doing the same thing in other countries.
Yeah, without doubt. But there's also the question is, what is Russia trying to achieve? Like, why do they want someone like Donald Trump in office versus someone like Hillary Clinton? Like, what is to be gained? And how much, how much do they benefit from that?
Yeah.
This is what's really one of the big questions that's going on right now.
Yeah.
With all the Russian hearings and the Mueller investigation and trying to get to the bottom of all this and why they did what they did and what they did. And there's many people that are blowing this off, and they don't think that it's important, and the president's claiming it's a witch hunt. But it's very odd that we're having this conversation in the first place. It's never existed before in any single presidential election. There's never been talk of us or any politician that's running for president being influenced by a foreign superpower before today. It's just amazing that it took until 2016 before this became a real issue.
That's true. That's true.
So do not fall for this distraction. Do not let you get bogged down in this. Don't obsess on this. Keep your eye on the ball. The thing that they don't want you to see is Jeffrey Epstein, is Donald Trump's relationship, his long forged friendship with a child predator. He said, he's a terrific guy. He's made jokes about how he likes him young. He sent him the birthday card, allegedly, with his signature as pubic hair, about, here's to another year of wonderful secrets, my friend. Come on. Distraction. I was trying to hit the thing and then say it again. It was going to be more dramatic that way, but it didn't work out. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, again, don't get bogged down. I'd love your opinion on this, though. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I would also humbly ask for you to consider supporting this particular independent media channel right now. With all this going on with corporate media and the acquiescence to Donald Trump and the bending of the knee and the kissing of the ass of this administration, independent media is more important now than it ever has been. And into the future, it's going to only gain importance. If you want to help me produce this work and reach the millions of people that I do every month for $2 a month, you can click the join button and become a channel member right here on YouTube. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Both those are great ways to help support this work and help me get the job done, as it were. Anyway, I'm on social media. If you want to find me there, I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere. Instagram to Blue Sky, not on the Nazi Twitter, but everywhere else. I'd love to see you.
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people.
As with anything, there is a normal, nuanced way to have a conversation about things. Right now, Donald Trump is trying to put his thumb on the scale on this deal with the Washington Commanders. Previous to that, it was the Washington football team. That's the name I'm a fan of. I've actually been a fan of what used to be called the Washington Redskins since I was a little kid. Since the 1980s, when I thought they were the Washington State Redskins, and since I grew up in Idaho, all of my cousins were Seattle Seahawks fans, and I thought, I'm going to be different. I like the Washington Redskins because I thought they were from Washington State. A stupid little kid. And that stuck for my whole entire life. I've been a Washington football fan. And it took me a while to come around on changing the name. Just as my politics changed over decades, so did my ideas about racism. And I used to be one of those dum-dums that would make arguments that, well, the Native American tribes, they helped design the logo back in the 30s or whenever it was, and not acknowledging that things change. People's understanding of bigotry and racism changes. We become more enlightened and we have a more fulsome understanding of the impacts that language has on populations. And when you have a name that's called the Redskins, it is definitionally racist. It's dealing with the color of their skin, not even in an accurate way. So Donald Trump is now distracting from all of this Epstein news by trying to create as much controversy around this as he can. And he's threatening to somehow interfere in the deal. Well, CNN Had an ESPN journalist on. Maybe she's a podcaster now. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of ESPN, so I don't know who she is. But they have what could be happening right now. They have a nuanced conversation about it. I'm going to play this. Then I'm going to throw to Karoline Leavitt being asked about this with Donald Trump. And her answer is just so telling about what they believe the job of the president is. Spoiler alert, there's no constitutional basis for anything they believe about what Donald Trump's job is. First, though, here's CNN having that nuanced conversation while also introducing the topic.
This morning, President Donald Trump is escalating his call for the Washington Commanders to change their name back to the Redskins. Trump says he actually might step in to block the team's stadium deal if they don't make the change, saying, quote, I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable and the deal would be much more exciting for everyone. It's unclear exactly what the president could do to follow through on this threat. The Commanders made the deal with D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. CNN contributor Carrie Champion joins us now to discuss this and more. So, Carrie, over in the NFL, President Trump obviously making those threats there. Even though it is in the city's jurisdiction, unclear what he could do. But is there any appetite for a move like that on the sports side where teams who have changed are now going to go back?
You know, I think when this happened, it was during a different period, to his point, 2020, when they were talking about changing names. Many people call that the woke era. I don't think that the Washington once football team, now Commanders, wants to change their name. I think that they've found a new identity. And I know that you can talk to fans. Fans are a little mixed bag. In fact, if I were more honest about it, I'm sure some fans will tell you they miss the Redskins name. Sure. While the logo itself wasn't offensive, but the name some say is. I don't see them changing it back. They talked about the Cleveland Guardians. There was the general manager of the Cleveland Guardians came out and said, you know what, we found our identity. Yeah. It took us a while. I mean, and I think there was a lot of time and effort put into these name changes. You remember the Redskins were the Washington football team before they settled with Commanders. They have a new great quarterback. They went to the regionals. And so they're feeling good about everything. And so I have a hard time believing they're going to reverse it unless there's some pressure, more from the president, more than they thought they could withstand. But right now, they're good as the Commanders, and that's their new identity.
And we've heard from, as you mentioned, the Cleveland Guardians owner saying, I understand there are very different perspectives on where we go from here. It's a decision, and we've gotten the opportunity to build the brand as the Guardians. Obviously, they changed from the Indians over to the Guardians.
It's not the president's job. It is not Donald Trump, any president, does have not constitutional authority to do what he's doing. To force, remember, this is the party of free enterprise. This is the party of limited government. This is the party of free speech. And Donald Trump is trying to now put his thumb on the scale when he posts on True Social. I may put a restriction on them that if they don't change the name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders, I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable and the deal would be much more exciting for everyone. And then he finishes it with this absolute fucking nonsense. Make Indians great again. Karoline Leavitt was asked about this on the driveway of the White House, and her answer, again, very telling.
Was the president serious or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious, and it's part of the art of the deal, part of his negotiating skills. As you know, sports is one of the many passions of this president, and he wants to see the name of that team changed.
Why is he getting involved in that? Why does he see that as part of his purview?
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people. And if you actually poll this issue with sports fans across the country and even in this city, people actually do support the president's position on this and the name change.
He's non-traditional. He gets involved in things that a lot of presidents don't. That's because they largely followed the United States Constitution. They largely took to heart their oath to this document that I was holding upside down. Donald Trump does not have anything to do with how a private organization names their sports team. It also does not matter that he's a big sports fan. He's an avid sports fan, or however she categorized it. If Donald Trump was an aviation fan, would he force Boeing to name their jets something different? Because I don't like 768. I'm making up numbers now. I like this. Let's call it the Piercer. Like, it's not your job. You're the president of the United States to see that the laws of the country are faithfully executed, to see that your duties as president are faithfully executed, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, even though you are that domestic threat to the Constitution, Donald Trump. All of this is nonsense. All of this is a distraction because of Donald Trump's decades-long friendship, his compatriotism with Jeffrey Epstein, the noted, notorious abuser of children. And Donald Trump very well might also be that. Allegedly.
You are talking about some of the most violent, sadistic, vicious, heinous people on the face of the earth. Who voted to put them here?
The ghoulish Stephen Miller was on Laura Ingram's Fox News program last night. And he, in an effort to justify his main focus, his main agenda item within the Trump administration, 2-point duh, he made some horrific generalizations, lies, propaganda, racism. He traffics in it like it's oxygen. He needs it to survive. Accusing migrants of being criminals and gang members. Talking about how, well, if you look at all the photos of the Empire State Building, it wasn't built by illegal immigrants. If you look at the NASA control room, it's not illegal immigrants in there. That white people, Americans is what he means. He says Americans, but he means white people. They built America. We built this country and made it strong. It's an ahistorical view of this country and our past and our present and our future. Watch Stephen Miller and prepared to be disgusted.
You know, if you look at photos of the Empire State Building being constructed, in record time, by the way, you know what you don't see there are any illegal aliens. You look at the photos of us landing a man on the moon, you look at the NASA control room, you don't see any photos of illegal aliens. Americans built this country, Americans sustained this country, Americans have powered this country for 2.5 centuries. Nobody voted to turn Los Angeles, what was once one of the crown jewel cities of Americans, into a third world failed city. Nobody voted for the crime. You know, every day ICE is out there in Los Angeles deporting MS-13 gang members, 18th Street gang members, Sinaloa Cartel gang members, Sureños gang members. You are talking about some of the most violent, sadistic, vicious, heinous people on the face of the earth. Who voted to put them here?
And the Academy Award goes to Stephen Miller. I don't think that's in his future. Look, this is all of the rambling. Yeah, we know you know the names of gangs. Great, Stephen. We get it. When you look at the photos of the building of the Empire State Building, you don't see illegal aliens. When you look at photos of the NASA control room during the moon landing, you don't see illegal aliens. Americans, he says, built and sustained this country over 200 years. If you want to get down to it, black people built this country. Black formerly enslaved people built this country, Stephen Miller. The building you fucking work in was built by slaves. Black people who were owned as property and systematically abused and tortured, raped and murdered. For centuries on this continent, for over 100 and how many years? Nearly 200 years owned his property while America was America. And you don't have to take my word for it if you're not a fan of history out there. For the trolls in the audience, let's go to the White House Historical Association. They say enslaved labor and the construction of the United States Capitol, it's not just the Capitol. The lengthy process of constructing the United States Capitol relied upon free and enslaved laborers at every step. As a city in its infancy, Washington, D.C. frequently experienced a shortage of free white craftsmen for hire on construction projects. Instead, enslaved laborers found the surrounding slave states of Maryland and Virginia. They made up a bountiful, cheap workforce that could be hired out for work on the president's house and the Capitol. The president's house was built by slaves. The United States Capitol, the temple of our democracy, where we constantly bang on about freedom and quoting the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. And now we've got this Nazi in the White House built by slaves, continuing to demonize and oppress and harm and kill immigrants in this country. And if you want to further dive into the murky depths and evil heart and mind of Stephen Miller, we only have to go back to April of this year when he was asked a question about deporting. It's not something you can do to an American, but forcing out American children who are the children of migrants. And he says something so repulsive. Watch his answer about those American children that have been forced to leave their home country.
Stephen, you guys ran on targeting violent criminals, worst of the worst. I'm not disputing any of the facts around the cases of these women who were deported and removed with their kids, but given you're looking for more money from Congress, ICE says they need more beds, they need more money. Is it the best use of the administration's resources to be going after moms of young kids, basically?
Do you yourself have an opinion on the subject?
I'm more interested in yours.
Well, what percentage of the, let's just pick an even number of, say, 10 million illegal aliens. Let's say that Biden released, I think it's closer to 20 million. Let's say he released 10 million illegal aliens into the country over the last 4 years. What percentage do you think we should let stay here of those 10 million?
I'm not trying to do a game show.
No, but I'm saying,
I'm just curious if you think that's the best use of your limited dollars.
Is it your view that if a Democrat president releases 10, 15, 20 million illegals into the country, they all then should get to stay forever and for all of life?
Stephen, I don't have a view about what Democratic presidents do. I'm asking what the Republican president you work for and how he wants to use his resources.
So you don't want to answer the question because you know the answer is obvious. Everyone that Biden let in has to go home. Of course. I mean, it's a crazy thing to even ask. You think we should give administrative amnesty to some subset?
I'm asking how you're prioritizing the work that your administration is doing.
ICE is going to continue to focus on raids against high-threat criminal aliens. We're going to use the entire force and power of the federal government to get them all home. Many will choose also to leave voluntarily and take advantage of the CBP Home app. But we are not going to ask taxpayers to subsidize the presence of a single illegal alien in this country. Here's another thing. Do you think that we have some sort of magic 8-ball to see which particular illegal aliens who skip their hearings, which particular gotaways are going to go on to commit a rape or a murder?
Why are you prioritizing the deportation of American children who are the children of migrants? He says, well, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know who is and who isn't a future rapist. You think children, because by virtue of the fact that their parent is a migrant, that they are likely, probably, not just possibly, a future rapist? That's racist. It is sickening. And he has the ear of the President of the United States. He is in charge of the DOJ. Kid yourself not. It is not Pam Bondi. It is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller runs the DOJ. Stephen Miller runs the Homeland Security Department. Stephen Miller is the tip of the spear.
We're supposed to elect the best of us, not the worst of us. He's everything that's wrong with not just America, but with being a human being.
You know, every once in a while, it's nice to hear from someone that you admire from afar. You admire their work. And then when you find out that they really have their head screwed on straight relative to other things that are probably more important than what their job is, an artist, an actor, it's a good time, right? Good feeling. Nicole Wallace, that's not who I'm talking about, but she was there since it's her podcast. Nicole Wallace from MSNBC has a podcast called The Best People. And she had Jeff Daniels on. Jeff Daniels from a storied career in Hollywood. My favorite role of his is Dumb and Dumber. What I believe to be the funniest movie ever made. Many people disagree with me, but it's okay to be wrong. Those of you who disagree. He's also was in the newsroom. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a phenomenal actor. And I want to play this clip from her podcast where they talk about Donald Trump in this second term. And he goes through and really lays out exactly where we are, really just stretching open Donald Trump's mouth and taking just a runny dump right into it. With class, with dignity, he does it. But the other element of this is that I want to talk about her framing of the question and her look back on Donald Trump's election in 2016 and still talking about economic anxiety of MAGA voters. And that's what led them to where they are as Trump supporters. And I just think, when are we going to stop talking about economic anxiety as a motivating, animating factor for these people? And not just chalk it up to what it is. These people are racists. These people were given permission to be the worst versions of themselves, to hate the people they already hated. It was given voice by Donald Trump. 15 seconds after he came down the stupid escalator, he was talking about Mexicans being rapists. And I assume, he said, some are good people. But that's not the norm. The norm is rapists. So it's not about economic anxiety. I just want to get that out of the way. Nicole, if you're listening, if you're watching, if somebody sends this to you, I admire your work. I think you do a good job. But let's stop with this nonsense about economic anxiety. Let's be clear-eyed about our past so that we can see our way out of it into the future, into modernity. Watch this clip. Let's talk about some of the elements on the other side.
So Trump wins because things are too damn expensive, right? We talked ahead of the election. I mean, I think a lot of people did feel so much economic anxiety that they swallowed the whole bag of Trump's warts and wounds and flaws to have more economic relief, maybe is what they were looking for. I think there was this pull, right, between I know that he's not doesn't have the character, if he were a lifelong Republican, of someone like Reagan or McCain, but there was this profound sense that things were getting out of reach. The price of college, the price of a home, all those things. If the character or the lack of character didn't hold them back, do you think the economic collapse he's manufactured will make people in Michigan think twice about Trumpism?
I think he's a snake oil salesman, and I think people will see that. I think one of the things that we've lost decency, we've lost civility, we've lost respect for the rule of law. Lost it. We have normalized verbal abuse on the internet. We've normalized bullying, much as the woke generation tried to, change that. It's back. And out the window goes character, integrity. I mean, nobody has great things to say about politicians. They never have. Go back to Mark Twain. But ideally, we're supposed to elect the best of us, not the worst of us. He's everything that's wrong with not just America, but with being a human being. I just don't get the the Christian right, and I've read a lot of people who do, and they explain it a lot better, but it's beyond me. But if Jesus came back, say 4 o'clock this afternoon, and he booked an appearance on your show, what do you think he'd say?
The only thing I would say to push back against Mr. Daniels' points is that we have not lost our decency, our civility, our respect for the rule of law. If anything, it has awoken in us a passion to protect those things, a passion to battle the fascists who are here to destroy our decency and our civility and the rule of law and our democracy and our nation with it. And maybe that's what he means. Us as a whole, we elected him. Maybe that's what it is. But we need more of this from people who are respected. We need more of this, whether they be celebrities for the celebrity's sake or celebrities because of the work they do in art, like Jeff Daniels. And the reason I say that, a lot of people say, oh, who cares? Just, shut up and act, or whatever Laura Ingram's stupid book was, shut up and dribble, or, unless you're a conservative athlete or a conservative entertainer, then, you can talk all you want. Let's get Dean Kang or the Hercules guy out here and let's let them blather on about their politics. What's Rob Schneider have to say? But the reason I say that it's okay and that I like it is because maybe there'll be somebody out there who admires Jeff Daniels and says, wow, yeah, maybe that's something to consider. Maybe that's something I should start onboarding and thinking about a little bit more critically. And the reason I don't care if Rob Schneider really gives his opinion is because who's a fan of Rob Schneider? Who's a fan of the GOAT guy, Jim Brewer, or Dean Cain, or any one of these dipshits? They're not going to be moving the needle much. Because when you cape for fascism, when you're here to represent the worst of us are already there. You're not going to be convincing people of that. It's got to be in there already. Anyway, good for Jeff Daniels. I wanted to share this with you. I would solicit your opinions and your conversation on the matter. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. One more ask. Please consider supporting this work, helping me continue to do what I do. Funding this work will help us grow and reach more people with the truth, with, I think, an accurate, positive analysis and commentary on the news on a daily basis. You can click the join button below for $2 a month. Become a channel member right here on this platform, YouTube. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. That's just a funding mechanism like channel memberships, except it's over there on Patreon. That supports this channel. That supports Brittany Page's channel. That also supports our podcast, I Doubt It, which you should be subscribed to as well. Patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Follow me on social media. After all of that, I'm just giving you all kinds of homework right now, right? At Dollemore, you can find me everywhere except the Nazi Twitter, but everywhere else at Dollemore. I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.